Well, hello there, YouTube, and welcome to another portrait painting tutorial. So last week, you decided that you wanted me to talk about how to achieve a likeness. So I'm going to first define what a likeness means, and we're going to talk about it in, say, 3 dimensions. So think about likeness as a three-dimensional thing. So first, one-dimensional likeness is what you may think of immediately, is that it looks just like the photograph. A painting of someone looks just like the photograph that you are using. That is one-dimensional likeness. Two-dimensional likeness is it looks just like the photograph and you've captured an expression, one expression. So three-dimensional likeness is what you're after, which is the character of a person. Three-dimensional likeness is the character of a person. You go beyond the photograph, which is just an instant. A photograph is just an instant in time, and it doesn't capture the overall character of a person. In order to capture the overall character of a person, you need to actually paint them from life, because you capture a series of micro expressions that goes beyond what you get in a simple photograph. So, to capture a likeness of someone, you don't necessarily have to replicate a photograph. That's the reason why the old master paintings are so strong. Why Rembrandt paintings are so strong. They don't look like photographs. They look like a series of moments all combined into one painting, which is timeless in a sense. So, we're going to go ahead and run the footage now. Today's going to be quite a longer episode. It's going to go on about an hour and 25 minutes, so we're going to be here for a while. So, let's see what's going on with everyone. So again, Happy New Year's to everyone. This is the first painting video in 2023. Yes, I have just dated this video. That was a mistake. But anyway. So hey Diego, Janice, Hippie Artist, Theo D, Stephanie Thompson. Again, Happy New Year's, everyone. So we are mixing. What are we mixing? We're mixing a dark with, let's say um, that was dioxazine purple, phthalo turquoise, so alizarin permanent, and I think I even used a little bit of white to gray it out. Hey Rob CP, Christopher. So what are we going to head towards? This is what we're going to recreate. So if I turn my head, you'll see that the one-dimensional likeness is there, but there's something a little bit more to it. The light was a little bit kind of strong, and my gesture was kind of like, ugh, I don't know how to turn my head that way. But that's where we're heading towards. So we're gonna get there in an hour and 24 minutes from now. Hey Beanpot, Happy New Year's. Uh, NECATI, Happy New Year's. Nilu, Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's, Rob. So that is where we're heading with this one. And I honestly didn't know my pose yet at this point. I was working from a mirror, which was already difficult enough. So when you're doing a self-portrait, I highly recommend that you work from a mirror and not from a photograph of yourself from high school or something like that, which I've seen a lot of people do. Um, Stay true to life. That's one of the important things. Like, if you want to really learn how to capture a likeness, start with self portraits. And it's going to seem like a really weird thing to do. And some people have said that don't do self portraits because you tend to impose your likeness on other people. That's a valid argument, and you can say that Rembrandt might have done that in the past. A lot of people may have done that. But if you do enough self portraits, you recognize when that happens. So, for example, I deliberately don't give people very rounded noses unless they really have it. I deliberately don't give people kind of square looking jaws, um, like this one, like where we're heading. I deliberately don't give people square looking jaws or cheekbones that are a little bit wider. I deliberately don't give people that unless they have it. So I try to avoid it. So Rob CP, no, I'm not using site size. Side size, for everyone that's wondering what that is if your painting is the exact same dimension as what you're looking at. So now I could have used site size Rob CP, but I think site size is a bit too tedious for me um, to use in a practical setting. I use it for very beginning projects for my online students. The very, very beginning projects, the super beginner level projects, they're pretty much all site size because it is a way for you to see proportion with absolute precision. But I didn't use it for this. I was kind of just trying to figure out a pose and figure out a gesture, figure out a position. So remember the dimensions of a likeness. One dimension is it looks just like the photograph. Two dimensions, it looks like the photograph and it has an expression. Three dimensions is the character because you capture a series of expressions, which is a series of micro expressions when you're painting someone over time, when you're painting someone from life. And in that essence, it doesn't have to be perfect like a photograph, but it has a series of moments all in one. So that's what makes portrait painting so special. And I'm glad that everyone suggested this one, how to achieve a likeness, because it is a misunderstood thing. Likeness is a very misunderstood thing. So hey, ASG, Happy New Year's. Hey Bonds Justice, Happy New Year's, everyone. Hope everyone had a safe and fun New Year's. So there, I'm looking at, as you saw me point with the brush, I'm looking at the position of the corner of my nose, the corner of the nose to the side of the face. So this little, I don't know if I can even get into that pose. This little area right here is a window between the edge of the nose and the side of the face. That gives me a concise pose. Now, I will admit, I didn't even know that I was painting my head on a tilt yet. Um, that just kind of happened. I didn't realize I was painting my head at a tilt yet at this point. But you can see where we're heading now as I will move this for you. So you can see where we're heading now. So it's got a slight tilt and a turn to it. I didn't realize that I was doing that yet, but that's what's giving me these guidelines in order to position the head. And it's not a major tilt. Let's see. Oh, COD, good comment there. What colors did you use to tone this canvas? Or is it in the script? You mean the description? Actually, no. I should put that in the description. But no, it's not in the description. I used black and white oil paint with a lead primer. You totally just reminded me. I think I forgot to tone some canvases last week. So it looks like the next video you're going to see is not going to have a tone on it. Or at least I'm going to have to apply a tone prior to painting, which is not that difficult, but it is easier to tone it. So what it is Williamsburg lead white oil primer and Alkyd ivory black. So that's all it is. Lead white oil primer by Michael Harding and Alkyd ivory black. The Alkyd is the Paul Rubens brand that was sent to me for a video review a long time ago. So the Alkyd just helps it dry faster, and the toner is a fast dryer anyway. So that tone was there for probably months now. So it was thoroughly dry before I worked on it. And I do recommend that you work on a neutral gray. And now you're seeing I'm starting to mix kind of like an off greenish blue. A lot of fun things happen when you neutralize really strong colors, like phthalo turquoise. I neutralized it there, and you have almost like a pearly kind of something or other. It's hard to describe what color that is, but it is maybe almost like I don't know, olive green of some sort with a touch of phthalo turquoise, something or other difficult. Um, so let's see. Happy New Year's, Lady Death. Happy New Year's, Marvick. Thanks for watching from the Philippines. Hey, Bonds, I seem a bit under the weather. I'm all right. I don't know. I've been feeling a little strange. It's the holidays. I don't know what it is. I think I just we haven't vacuumed here in a while. I'm allergic to dust. So I don't know. Usually I wake up kind of with my throat a little raspy. I'm good. I mean, like, I don't feel sick. I just have kind of like a little bit of congestion, but I'm all right. I'm all right. Thanks for the question. And you'll notice my voice kind of change throughout the video. My voice kind of starts to normalize a little bit. So I'm gonna move the chat maybe to about here because it looks like a lot of the mixing is gonna happen on the right side. So I started to mix a shadow there. So that's a brown made up of all of the primaries and secondaries. So that's likely to be ultramarine blue, viridian, or ultramarine blue, viridian, and red most likely gave you that. You can get that with just pretty much green and red. So Rob CP, does Gamvar need thinning before varnishing? No, 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 no. Gamvar, you can apply that straight. You don't need to thin it out with anything. It's made for you to apply straight on. Gamvar is nice because it it is a varnish that is completely removable with Gamsol, I believe that's what they say it is. And you can apply it while the painting is touch dry. So if you let it dry for about 2 weeks or so, it's touch dry if you're using traditional oil paints. So that is faster than having to wait the full 6 months with a Demar varnish. So, hey, Chrysalida. Happy New Year's to you as well. Oh, thank you for wishing me success. I wish you success as well. Hey, Bean Pot. Post Christmas crop. That's funny. Hey, Bonds. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. I usually kind of wake up with a kind of a different voice, a little strange. But I'm feeling all right. We were pretty safe these holidays. We didn't go out to pretty much anything. We saw a total of maybe like I can count on maybe both hands how many people we've seen throughout the holidays. So we didn't really see that many people. Hey, Jonas. Oh, I'm glad you liked the self portraiture. And it's at this point, what was going on in my mind in terms of the painting development was covering the darks such that I can work with that kind of like thin sliver between light and shadow, as you see it with the lighting. And eventually, I do choose to add more light to the cheekbone because it was there. It was just very subtle. So you see where we're heading. It's like we're gathering all this paint, spreading it around the canvas, and now we're getting the shadow and we're throwing it on there and we're kind of sculpting it out a little bit there. ASG, most of the times you can't watch my live videos, but today you're awake. So the good news is this is a consistent schedule now. And I say that, knock on wood, um, I will keep this my consistent schedule about 10:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time is when we will stream every Tuesday. So every Tuesday. All right, so now we're starting to mix up something light. So let's see what's going on here. We're using titanium white, which is flake white replacement from Gamblin, which is a titanium white. It's just a modified version of it. That's cadmium red. And we mixed it right onto what was already on the palette there. And we're using that deliberately to carve an edge around the nose. So I am delineating light and shadow with color now. which is a very difficult thing. I don't start online students doing this. So if you are interested in the online classes, by the way, I do a live chat on Zoom every other week. That is for all online students, again, starting at the $10 a month. Actually, to attend the live chat, it's the $5 a month tier, but the $5 a month tier only gets you the live chat. So that will be tomorrow around the same time if you want to hang out with me on Zoom. I won't be painting though. That is reserved for the Zoom tiers, but we'll get to hang out. The reason I'm going to do that is so I can have some open conversation with students to see what exactly they want to do, if I missed any of their questions and things like that. So now we're using a bigger brush and we're starting to put in planes. So this part is more, now we've kind of figured out where the head is going to be turned. And so what we're going to do now is start to plane out the head. So we're going to start to add just the kind of chops of value to figure out the curvature of the form with color. So the color is quite, it's quite transparent. I'm not using a lot of, let's say, heavy paint at the moment here. So I'm using pretty much what's on the palette mixed with white and cadmium red. Hey, Ellen. Good morning to you. So I'm starting to add that value for the bottom of the mouth. Happy New Year's, Jonas. Now we're starting to add light planes. It was a little early at that stage to start to add these planes, but I was feeling more curious about the pose, even still at this point, which is what we're about 15 minutes in. I was still a bit curious about the pose, so this was my way of kind of understanding the trajectory of the light source, which was not that easy. When you're doing a self-portrait, everything is a little bit more complicated because the light that's on your canvas is also influenced by the light that's on your face. So I had three different things to think about: the lighting on the canvas, the lighting for the video, and the lighting on my face. So it was a little difficult, and I actually did film this on a Tuesday, as well. It was last week, right after you asked me what to do. So I figure I'm gonna do the same thing right after you ask me what to do today. I will just go ahead and film it for next week. It's from Nilu. How do we correct a chalky effect? So sometimes the chalkiness that you speak of is it is a good thing. So my teacher Paulden, um, one of my first teachers ever, he would always complain about the chalkiness of his paint, and I never quite understood it. And it took me, well, I did understand it eventually. It just took me a while. But the chalkiness, what that means is that there's a little too much of a blue to something that you think should be warm. So add something warm to it that's a little more opaque. So to get rid of the chalkiness, maybe yellow ochre won't help you, burnt sienna won't help you as much unless you use a lot of it. But something like a cadmium orange that will probably get you out of a chalky effect. Something more, something more saturated, something more chromatic. Chrysalida, can you paint over Uh, Gamvar, I wouldn't suggest it. If you're at a point where you have to correct something that's been varnished, uh, that's a little tricky. I will admit that's never happened to me. Um, and it may be that you have a client or something, and that's a very, very difficult thing, actually. It's been done, and you can notice it even with the old master paintings. If you kind of look down You can see some areas where the varnish is not quite consistent, and that might be because of the conservators, depending on how old the painting is. But you can do it if you remove the Gamvar with Gamsol first. So you have to remove it with Gamsol just everywhere. Don't just do it in one spot, just everywhere. Remove it. I'll experiment with that myself, actually, because I'm not going to tell you to do something that I haven't done. It's only what I've heard and read that you can do. But that's something I'm going to have to experiment myself. I've got some paintings that are varnished that I don't think are good enough to sell, so I can kind of throw them under the axe and see if the varnish is actually that easily removed. Hey, Aguilar, thanks for watching from Tijuana, Mexico. Hey, Rob, CP. Yeah, yeah, that's what I heard. You can use Gamsol to remove Gamvar. I mean, that's one of the big selling points of it, but um, again, I've never really tried it. At this point in the painting, I realized that my head was too narrow. Now, the camera is at an angle with respect to the painting so that I don't get my head in the way of the painting. So it's going to look a bit narrow anyway, but it was too narrow, so I actually moved my shadow outwards to the right side of the canvas to make my head to make the head a little bit wider. And this is why I always say, keep your shapes simple and easy such that when the time comes, like that, to make changes, those changes are simple and easy to adjust. So instead of moving a bunch of details and a zillion different values, I had to move just a single, maybe one or say two values a little bit to the right. So I projected it a bit to the right. So for those of you that are questioning likeness in terms of a commission, if you have a portrait commission and the client, you've heard me say this before, but if the client is let's just put it nicely, if the client wants a replication of a photograph and they're willing to pay a lot of money for you to do the job of a printer, do everything you can to make it easier on yourself. So trace it, project it, do whatever you gotta do to get your light and shadow shapes pristine to the photograph that you're working on. Because it's only one-dimensional likeness. That's all they care about. They're just paying a lot of money, hopefully, for you to be a human photocopier. So get those light and shadow shapes directly off of the photograph. Forget about trying to freehand draw it. It's never going to be as exact as a photograph because a photograph is never going to be exact to life unless we're talking about the year like 2030 or 2040 or 3020, who knows. But just don't do that to yourself. Just trace it, project it. There's no cheating in art. Let me tell you something. That everyone, for some reason, always thinks that tracing and projecting and gridding is some kind of form of cheating. There's no cheating in art unless you take credit for something that someone else did. That's the only way you can really cheat in art. Do whatever you can to get the job done, other than taking credit for someone else's work. And it's kind of funny because if you go on Amazon, there's a there's a pastel set that has a replication of one of my paintings, and I know this because the model that I chose to let's just say they did a good job. I recognize the model that I chose to paint from, and it's not really a copyright thing. It's because it's on YouTube. I can't copyright this painting. It's on YouTube. It's there for you to replicate. It was kind of cool to see that. Hey, Chrisalita, no worries. I'm glad you liked my response. So now let's go ahead and ask everyone a question, and I typically ask the same kind of boring question, so I'm gonna change it up. Did anyone do anything special this new year? Anyone do anything special this new year? And I recently moved out with my wife. We're living in our first apartment together, which is an amazing accomplishment. Really, really happy about it. And we had a really nice New Year's. We kind of just sat around and watched SpongeBob SquarePants. So, something we both used to watch as kids. So, we're watching season one of SpongeBob SquarePants. So that was our New Year's. We didn't even wait for the countdown. We are just watching SpongeBob. Hippie artist hanging out with your pups. Yes, of course that counts. That is a special thing. Theo, so much sleep. That's okay. Beanpot went to bed early. That's okay. Rob CP watched Jason. I don't know how to pronounce that film. Sounds like fun. Jonas, he had with his family dinner and then fireworks. Oh wow. Oh, thanks, Theo. So as these are live streams, we will interact, like in this the sense of conversing about things about life and all that stuff. Um, but in terms of the painting, I will always explain whatever questions you have in terms of the painting. So right now we're starting to subdivide our shapes. We're in the stage now where we're starting to subdivide from those big shapes now to say middle-sized shapes, not large shapes, but you can see I'm starting to anchor down the dark for the upper lip and the dark for the bottom of the lip, going around the form, encapsulating the form with the exterior shapes, and then working towards the interior. Sometimes it's the reverse, but this time we're going from the dark outwards. Hey, Alan, no, we were supposed to watch The Room. I forgot. We were supposed to watch The Room and throw spoons at the TV. That's still gonna happen, but we watched SpongeBob. Hey, Nilu, learning animation on your iPad. Oh, cool. And now we're working our way up towards the light for the lips. So you see that's cadmium red, white, and I killed it off with some more of the greenish colors. And this is something I've learned a lot from Rembrandt in particular. There doesn't have to be a lot for lips. And if you look at um, some of the top names in all of art history, I'm thinking Velázquez, Sargent, Titian, and Rembrandt. If you think about those painters, there's not a lot of detail with any of the features. And this is something that's kind of tricky. And you won't really notice it unless you look at the old masterworks in person or look at the pictures of the old master works, say like on Google Arts and Culture. But their finished results are not, say, hyper realistic, say like a Bouguereau. Bouguereau is more polished, a little less true to life. If you look at a simple sergeant head, a lot of it's in the shadow most of the time, but the subtlety is in the relationship between all of the shapes. And this is where we're starting to capture micro expression within the subtlety of the shapes. And let's see, I have no idea how to pronounce your name, but your last name is Behmot. Are you a teacher or would you like to? Yeah, yeah, I've been teaching painting for a long time now. I've been teaching online for 4 years, and I think I've been on YouTube now going on what, 5 or 6 years? I don't know. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, what? 23, what? 6 years? I started my YouTube channel in 2017. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I guess we're going on 6 years. We're going on 6 years with YouTube. It's kind of hard to count, I guess. but I also teach in person once in a while. Um, so if we get enough students this coming winter, I will be teaching at the school called Yellow Barn in Glen Echo, Maryland. But primarily, I teach online. So yeah, I've been teaching for a long time. So again, my online classes start out at $10 a month, everyone. Rob CP, the painting process with your explanation is starting to make sense to me now. Big shapes first, then correct the subdivide shapes into smaller shapes. I make it look easy. Oh, thanks, Rob CP. It's definitely not. It's not always easy for me. Sometimes some are more simple than others. This I will say this was a little bit more complicated. Um, so BEHMOT. What's hard about being a teacher? Hold on, I just missed one comment. I missed two of them actually. So from Jonas, do you use the same brush for light and shadow or separate? Separate. So they are the same brand of brushes, but I have one for the light and one for the dark, and I believe I had one for the middle values as well. So from Bonds, their adult children commandeered the house to have a party. You stayed in your studio out of their way. It was a magnificent, eventful. Oh, good. I'm so glad. I I can recall that some New Year's parties can be a little bit uh, a little bit lit. So I'm glad that it was magnificently eventful. What's hard about being a teacher? The hardest thing about being a teacher is the thing I enjoy the most, which is trying to understand what the student is thinking. So when you're a teacher, no matter what you're teaching, you have to understand what's going on in your student's mind. And once you understand what they're thinking, you understand their mental blocks, per se, in terms of why they're resisting or why they're not taking in the information. Um, and then you can really help them if you understand them. And this takes time. It takes time to understand a student and to be able to help them through those barriers. That's the hardest thing is to understand what's going on in their thinking process. Is it self-doubt? Is it overconfidence? Is it a bad habit? Things like that. Let's see. BEHMOT. I have a, let's see, weird problem? I don't know what that means. Not sure. Hey, Theo D. Thanks for watching in Maryland. I used to live in Maryland. Now I'm in Northern Virginia. Not that far away. I'm about, say, mm, 20 minutes away from Maryland, the border of Maryland there. Hey, Harjot, long time no see. I'm doing good. I hope you're doing well. So, Jonas, let's see. You have the same three brushes for each of the colors. Good, good. I typically like to have a light, middle, a dark, a cool, and a warm. COD, the class title at the Yellow Barn is titled. Okay, so I'm teaching a Thursday night class, which is portrait painting. So it's 7 o'clock. Is it 7 to? Yeah, 7 to 9:30, Thursday nights. It's titled Portrait Painting from Life. And yeah, if you're interested, I can look up the links and post that for you if you want to. Um, let's see. So BEHMOT, you would like to become a painting teacher? Oh, good. I will tell you, the most helpful thing to becoming a painting teacher is to take classes from a lot of different teachers. So I was very fortunate. I had a lot of classes, a lot of instruction. I am not self-taught. I'm very far from it. I've had a lot of teachers in the past. So be very open-minded to different teachers. and that will help you a lot. It's important to have that background. Nilu, your holidays. Let's see. Your granddaughter painted a, landscape painting. Oh, cool. Harja, I'm in Alexandria. Yeah, I'm in Alexandria. I'm very far away from Timonium. Yep, Stephanie, I'm closer to you now. I'm in Virginia. Hey, Harja. Yeah, Kai. Yeah, Kylan, and I'm assuming Kai has online classes as well. He's a really, really good painter that used to be in Maryland. We hung out for a while. So now we're starting to add some smaller shapes, starting to subdivide the shapes. So this part, oh, you're in Leesburg. Oh, cool. Cool, cool. I know firsthand about this traffic now. This traffic is really something. That's why I kind of stay home all day. I'm glad I get to work from home. So Nilu, you're from India. Thanks for watching from India. Okay, so this part is a little bit more difficult. So once you start to subdivide the shapes like this is where it starts to get a little more challenging. As you notice, I switched to a sable brush there for that little shape for the eye, and that pretty much stays that way. So if you look at the final result, that pretty much stays that way. So the edge of the eye, that shape kind of remains. So like I said, the head is a little bit wider. I do have a wide set head, but the camera is at an angle, so it is a little difficult to see that. And we still got a long time. We've got 50 minutes in this. So Harja, no, I'm not teaching in Alexandria. I wouldn't even know where to teach around here, to be honest, but I'm assuming the torpedo factory. I don't know. But now I'm teaching in Maryland still, in Glen Echo. Let's see, Rob CP, would you say your method of painting is close to one of your teachers or a mixture of all your teachers? Wow, that's a good question. I'd say it's a mixture of all of them. Paulden Hamilton is the teacher that I've had the most experience with, and he usually does a very quick umber sketch. I got the umber sketch. Well, everyone does it, but I was first introduced to it from him. And he does work the middle stages kind of similar to this, but he starts it differently. Robin Fry, a teacher that I had, really wonderful teacher. And she's up in Philly. She studied with Nelson Shanks. She kind of works more plain, like big flat plane. So I kind of got that from her. Stephen Early, also, I studied with him, and he starts to subdivide his planes very expressively, kind of like boom, 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 all these little like hatch marks kind of color and value. So I kind of got that from him a little bit, and um, I guess let's say. And John DeMartin, somewhat, not so much with painting, but for drawing, I'd say, uh, looking at proportions in relation to one another. So from Bonds, I've been using flake white replacement for a while now. What's your thought on it, and how does it compare to lead white? Good question. So first thing, Gamblin flake white replacement is better to use, in my opinion, than titanium white alone, because especially for portraiture. Because it handles similar but not exact to lead white in that it doesn't raise the value too much, so it allows your colors to have um, a little bit more depth to it than just using titanium white, which tends to be too light too quickly. But you can use it just as well. I mean, titanium, it's just a little bit of adjusting. Um, so I would say it handles different than all of the lead whites that I've tried in the sense that it's still more opaque than the lead whites because the lead white pigment itself is different, but it is still kind of transparent enough that it allows me to have a little control in the mid-tone range. And I will say it's actually, you know what, it's closer to lead white number two, which is the linseed, not the linseed, the walnut oil lead white. It's closer to that one. But I like it. I mean, I'll keep using it. And I'm using it again because I'm in an apartment, so I don't want to have to clean up lead in an apartment. Hey, Ada, you're just joining this video. Your colors always get muddied up working. The shadow is a challenge for you. So about the shadows, so a muddy color is akin to kind of an ugly color, which I don't believe is something that exists. A muddy color, at least the idea of a muddy color, and this is why I say it's important to have training from as many different artists as you can. Um, a muddy color or an ugly color is a color that doesn't relate to the surrounding colors. If you take a color in isolation, it can be less appealing. You should always look at colors in relation to one another. COD. Oh no, don't worry. Please keep asking as many questions as you want. So everyone, ask as many questions as you want on these live streams. Blow up the comments. I would love to see that little comments thing just keep going and going and going and going, because it gives us things to talk about and it also just helps with my analytics. So don't feel bad about asking questions. Let's see. Yellow Barn has 3 offerings of you Thursday and Sunday. Are those classes similar or different? I would suggest if you can make it on Thursday, the Thursday one would probably be a little better. The Thursday one is portrait painting from life. The Sunday one is more just painting from photographs, and it's more for like people that are just beginning painting and painting still lives and things like that. So Thursday would probably be better for you if you like portraiture. And they're similar in the sense that you're taking a class with me, but the Thursday one is ideal. It's better because you're painting from a live model. Let's see. So that's the difference. Sunday is photo reference. Thursday is from life. So SG, let's see. You took a commission work from a friend of your sister's. They gave you commission work after seeing a portrait of your nieces drawn with pastels. You did recently. You couldn't recreate the commission work. You tried every medium. So like you're forgetting everything you learned. And there's pressure. Honestly, a little bit of pressure is good with painting. I've been painting under pressure for years now. Anytime you put a camera in your painting, it's just like everything is different. But I like it. I got used to it. But when you're doing a commission, it's a similar pressure because you have to get it just right for the client. And I'll always recommend. Oh, thank you for the emojis, by the way. I don't know if that's a good thing though. Let me double check that. Yeah, based on the picture, I don't want to be too judgmental. But I think based on that picture, you're not a human. So I will put you in timeout first. And if you are human, then you'll tell me you are. Let's see. So SG, let's see. You returned the money, gave let's see. You returned the money. You were disappointed not because you returned the money, but because you couldn't draw it with any medium. Um, oh, don't worry, SG. Similar things have happened to me more than I would like, but I remember one particular time I was doing a live stream and someone was like, "Please do this painting for me. Please do this." I'm like, "Oh my goodness." So I was like, "Okay, okay." And I painted it the way I paint, and then I showed them a picture, and I was basically telling them I don't do perfect like reproduction of your picture, and if that's what you want, then print it out and put a painting filter on it. And you have to word it that way. You have to tell them that. It sounds mean, but it's the truth. So, and they just didn't like it at all. And I told them, no, I'm not going to continue working with them. And then they reached out to another painting YouTuber, which was kind of funny. And then they recreated that one live, which, oh my goodness, I don't know why would you would ever do that. M- my hats off if I was wearing one to them for doing that. But that is definitely something that, nope, I would never take that one on. And it happened again. This past month, I did a commission of an eagle for someone. They sent me the picture, and I recreated the picture. Trust me, I recreated that picture. I went human photocopier on it, and they didn't like it. I sent them the picture of it, right, with details, the picture of it, and then I brought it to them in person, and they were like, "I expected more from you." I'm like, "Okay, okay." And then they wanted me to do another commit, like this huge commission, and based on what they paid for that one, I just there's no way I'm gonna go through it. SG, long story short, it happens to all of us. Don't feel disappointed in yourself. I know you're disappointed for different reasons, but that kind of stuff just happens with commissions. So Theo D, let's see. You can't take the Monday one, but let's see. Three offerings at Yellow Barn. Oh, thanks. The Monday is actually a landscape, which I'm not teaching the semesters after that. So it's a one-time class of landscape, and it's going to be from pictures and from the surrounding environment of the studio. Rob CP, yeah, if you light and shadow definitely helps for sure. Bonds, let's see, great examples of masterful use of money colors. Sergeant Zorn, those money colors in relation to some delicately painted color notes of higher chroma are part of uh, the genius of those masters. I will agree to that definitely. Yeah. So let's not forget about Vermeer as well. He was good at that too. All right. So where are we at now? We've got about 39 minutes, and you can see we've laid down the foundation. So we've put in those smaller shapes, and now what we got to do is not so much add more to it. And yes, we're going to add more to it, but we're going to move the stuff that's around. Like I said, I have a pretty wide head, and there is some camera distortion because you're looking at me through a webcam, but there is more now finesse that's going to happen with the shapes. So from Chrysalida, you took a commission for let's see, an Italian fishing port. Took a very long time, over a year to finish. You wanted to give up, but you kept going. This past December, you were able to mail it to Hartford. Awesome. And honestly, everyone, honestly, I'm not gonna say this about every portrait commission, but over the years, portrait commissioners, clients have been, I think, a little bit worse. It's been more difficult to get, um, unless you're painting like a senator or some kind of diplomat that knows about the art world. A lot of times, painting commission these days are expecting you to recreate a photograph. And it's a sad, sad world because um, it's a sad, sad world because the photograph and the Instagram and the Twitter and the Twitch and the everything that's like short term little videos, like as funny as it is to watch like fail army things like that, that like instant life is something that has taken over the mindset, I'd say, of commissioners, and I feel like it's that instant replica of what they want. And in real life, portrait painting commissions, I mean, Sargent would take a long time. And it didn't look like it, but he would. Rembrandt would take a long time. Think about the Night Watch. Everyone that struggled with a commission, if you don't know about Rembrandt's Night Watch, look it up for sure. Look up the history behind Rembrandt's Night Watch because that is the pinnacle. That is not the pinnacle. That is the very core of what we struggle with as portrait painters when we deal with clients. Rembrandt just had a bad time. He had some really bad clients for the Night Watch, and that was just unfortunate for him. So, Chrysalida, you had to learn about this place. You found out it was a fishing port. It was much easier to finish. You will do another one. Cool. Hey, Bonds. My self portrait are always so alive. You love the way I work with them. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is a little different. It's a little different in the sense that all these little micro expressions, which is something I should mention now about that. So, Crysalida. Oh, good. I'm glad you liked the painting and the explanation. Hey, Red Angry Bird. Hello, hello. So let's talk about micro expressions now. So let's recap everyone. The three dimensions of a likeness. One dimensional likeness is what most people think of, which is it looks just like the photograph. Uh, no, that's not complete likeness. That's a glimpse of it. A photograph can only really give you a glimpse of your likeness. And this is why it's kind of spooky, but you will never see yourself in real life. You will never see yourself in real life. Isn't that weird when you think about it? That is because you will always look at a reflection of yourself on the mirror or a photograph. You will never see yourself in your entire lifespan. Isn't that weird? It's kind of like saying a Sharpie can't write on itself. Unless you chop the tip off the Sharpie and you write on it. In that case, if you chop the tip off a Sharpie, it is no longer a Sharpie. So it's kind of one of those weird riddles. But remember the three dimensions of likeness. One dimensional likeness is it looks just like the photograph. Two dimensional likeness is it looks just like the photograph and it has an expression. Three dimensional likeness is you have captured a character. The only way to capture the character that someone has is to paint them from life. You capture their character by capturing a series of micro expressions. A series of micro expressions display the character because a person is not just one character. A person is not just one moment. A person has a series of moments. There are times where I'm looking at myself and I'm frustrated. There are times where I'm looking at myself and I'm curious. There's times where I'm looking at myself and I'm happy. There's times where I'm looking at myself here and I'm just angry with what I did with the painting. There are a series of expressions over time makes up your personality. Your personality is not just one moment. That's why you can't judge a person when you just met them. Like first impressions, you can't judge someone based on just solely first expression. What if their what if their poodle just died? Like what if they just lost their turtle or something? Like I mean, I'm putting these weird things out there because I want you to remember this because this is what makes portrait painting so wonderful and it's one of the things that people don't understand these days is that a painting is an accumulation of a series of moments. And if you have to work from a photograph like I do most of the time, you have to make them up. You have to make up a story because otherwise you're just a human photocopier. Hey Diego, it's a mad world. Yes, people do not appreciate as much the long-term work because everything now should be instant gratification. And that's what worries me with these videos. So these videos are more like kind of podcasts where I'm sitting here and talking to you and explaining things to you. Um, so that's the difference. Like Harjot, if you're still with us, I am not painting this live. As you notice, my hand is not right there. So this is a live of a pre-recorded, which I wasn't able to do in the past because I didn't have a computer that could handle it. But recently I've upgraded my computer, thanks to everyone's support here on YouTube and on my online classes. So recently, and of course some help from my wife, a lot of help from her actually. So I now have a better computer that allows me to do this. And plus you can watch this in 1080p. So high def resolution. All right. So from SG, you tried everything. You started Alla Prima, created a grayscale, then applied more colors as glazing a lot more. Let's see. The commission was easier than the painting. The customer was impressed with. And honestly, it's just SG. It's just a commission is a completely different thing because you're not just concerned about the likeness. You also want to make sure that the canvas itself is perfect. There's no little cuts and scrapes on the canvas. Just all kinds of things really. Um, but I will say that the struggle that you had, SG, though it's frustrating right now, it is a very good learning experience. Remember, everyone, that when you're stuck somewhere or something that you don't like happens to you, it is definitely a bump on the road. But every time, let's just put it this way, mistakes are stepping stones to success. Mistakes are stepping stones to success. In Bob Ross's world, there are no mistakes, only happy accidents. And learning is a happy accident. So in his world, there are no mistakes. In our world, there are mistakes. You can make the nose too long. You can make the eye crooked. You can make the mouth too wide. Those are mistakes. And then you correct them and then you learn from them. So in this case, SG, you're going to have to try different things out apart from the commission. Just don't think about the commission right now. Paint other things apart from the commission, because when you're painting a commission, it's a completely different thing. Return to the commission world after some more painting, and then you will come across what that barrier was. And if I were your teacher, if you were with me online, I'd probably be able to see it and tell you, um, like on Zoom or something. But I really, for me, just with text, it's kind of difficult to tell. But of course, SG, if you have some, painting colleagues out there with you that have experience, then that would help too. So let's see. Rob CP, how do you artistically decide whether something should be hard or soft edge? You have seen something about Sargent, and he was a master of edges. So Rob CP, edges. There's two reasons for it. One is it is physically sharp, like the the edge of a chopstick is physically sharp when you contrast it with something dark. And then there's physically soft edges, like the edge of the hair. The edge of my hair is a physically soft edge. That's one reason for a soft or sharp edge. The other is focus. So, for example, like around the eyes, I typically want more focus than on the chin. So that's why there's softer here, sharper here. That's something that photographs do quite well if you adjust the camera. But uh, focus in different areas is also kind of dependent on what you want to put into focus. Like I wanted to put the edge of the nose in focus. Plus, it's just physically a sharper edge anyway, because I do have this bump on my nose, which is sharper. Um, the edge of the forehead up there is medium sharpness. It's not as sharp. The hairline will always be not sharp but soft because the hair is sitting on your head. It's not it's not glued onto my head. This is my actual hair. So it is a different a different edge. And I will say the hairline is probably the hardest edge, but there's always so much to learn with edges. There's so much I still have to learn too. Ellen, you're afraid of painting a person from life. It's one of the greatest experiences I think ever is to do that. It's fun in how you get to kind of understand this person. It's almost like you're seeing into their soul a little bit, which is kind of weird when I mention it like that. Um, but it is a very unique experience, and there's really nothing like it. Like, there's nothing like it, especially if you have like a really interesting model. I mean, I tend to talk to the models that I'm painting if it's just me and the model painting. Um, because I don't really mind it if they move a little bit. Because like I said, it's you're not recreating a photograph, so I don't mind a little bit of movement. I mean, I don't want them to be moving their head like this, but maybe like a subtle like adjustment like that. I don't mind as much, but I do. It's one of my favorite things. So bonds, micro expressions. That's a great explanation of why we should want to paint from life. It's really the only way to capture the essence of a subject. Well put, well put. I do like that you said that, and thank you. Okay, so that was a reply to SG. Hey, Javi Jab, Happy New Year's to you as well. Thanks for watching from Chicago. Rob CP says, be brave. Believe me, Ellen is a really, really good painter. She started with me um, a while ago now. She's learned a lot. She's currently doing a Bouguereau. Not to put you out there, Ellen, but uh, you're definitely, your skill set is definitely uh, to the point where you don't need to worry about being nervous about painting from life. Hey, Mariah. I remembered your username, I think. I hope. Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, and you're painting as well. Awesome. Awesome. And we're still going to be here for another 25 minutes, so we're still here for a while. Yeah, no problem, Ellen. Yeah, definitely a self-portrait. Hopefully I'll see you later today in the group Zoom. Speaking of that, everyone, you want to know my schedule? Here it is. This is my schedule. So you see there Tuesday. I'll pause the video footage there so you don't miss anything. So I paused it. So there's my schedule right there, and it's no secret where I am, what I'm doing with my work. But you see there in red is the YouTube public live 10 a.m. It's actually 10:15 a.m. This time it was like 10:20, but 10 a.m. Is going to be the YouTube public live, and then oh, I'm cutting it close, aren't I? So at 12 p.m. is the group Zoom. So right after this ends, I'm gonna be on Zoom with my group Zoom students, and then on Wednesdays every other week is a live chat for all online students. So if you want to see me in person on Zoom, that is tomorrow at the same time, consider signing up for my online classes. The $10 a month one will get you access to it. So if you want to hang out with me on Zoom tomorrow, check out the online classes. I'm gonna run the footage again. Make sure that you didn't miss anything. Rob CP, you've always been impressed with the character drawings people do. Oh, you mean caricatures? They exaggerate features, and yet they have the likeness. Like you say, don't need to reproduce. Yeah, definitely caricatures. Man, caricaturists are really, really amazing at what they do, and I don't think they get as much credit for it. Caricature is very hard. I've tried it a few times in the past, maybe like once or twice, but I don't know, man. The caricatures are they are something else. They are definitely very hard. So bonds, let's see if you may share your philosophy. You strive for perfection with the understanding that it can never be achieved, but that doesn't stop you from striving towards it. There you go. It's kind of like aim for the what do you mean? What's the what's that quote? Shoot for the stars and you'll at least end up I don't know. But yeah, aim for that like perfect
like precision, perfect precision, but it will never be completely perfect. I get it, but don't also stress yourself over it either. This should be a fun and relaxing thing. So don't stress yourself over it too much. So you wrote, inherent in this philosophy is the acknowledgement of failure as a necessity. But failure always leads to future success. This is true. This is true. It's a never ending continuum. That's what I believe keeps us coming back for the failures. Exactly. So yeah, that is a much more poetic way of what I usually say. I usually just say mistakes are stepping stones to success, but yeah, that's a more poetic way of putting it there for sure, for sure. So back on the topic, excellent comments there. So on the topic of likeness and the three dimensions of likeness. So micro expressions, character. Character is also when you get to really know the person that you're painting, and you get to know them only on a surface level because you're painting someone and they could be a serial killer and you don't even know that. Just I don't know. Let's make something a little bit less morbid because we're past Halloween now. So you're painting someone and they're secretly a a published author. Let's just say they're a published author or something like that. You may not know that, um, but when you're painting them on a surface level, you're capturing their expression, but you're also kind of hinting your understandings that there's something within their character there that there's things that you can capture within a person without even knowing that person. That's another kind of like magical thing that happens in painting. So there I started to add just a glimpse of light, a glimpse of that little triangle of light is called Rembrandt lighting. So just a little glimpse of light there. So we typically only go an hour, but we are definitely going the distance here. So going a little bit longer than we usually do. So we've added a little more refinement now than we usually do. But this is the way that I like to add more subtlety. And every time you see a little tap, tap, tap motion with the brush, it is because I'm feathering the edges between one plane and another, not because I'm deliberately blending it. So from SG, no art is finished, only abandoned. That is definitely something that is true. You can always continue to keep working on it. Once upon a time, I spent over a year, I think, a little over a year on a painting, so I can definitely still return to that painting and do more to it. Um, but, but yeah, it's definitely something I can attest to. So for Rob CP, it's like the story of a boy being chased by a bull. He ran to a tree and jumped to catch the branch, but let's see, branch he missed, but caught it on the way down. Aim higher is the moral. Well, yeah, yeah. Always strive for the best that you can, but don't pressure yourself too much. Too much pressure can lead to a burnout, which happens. I mean, it's going to happen with anything that you do for a long period of time. I mean, um, it's like a. I always kind of relate painting to kind of like a relationship. So not the relationship advice person, but painting goes through a honeymoon phase. Like when you started out, like the first year, the second year, maybe first 2 years or so, like it's a honeymoon phase. Like like you got pet names for each other and all these things, and you love everything about each other. And then after 2 years, you start to notice they chew a little bit loud, or something that you once liked about them you don't like anymore. And then you kind of like, meh, you get some distance, and then you have a fallout after 2 years, and then maybe you have a fight and you don't see each other for a while, and then there's something you see a bird flying across the sky or something, it reminds you of this person, and you're like, you know, I actually do have these feelings for this person. And you get over that fight, you get over that whatever it is. And then you're back together, and it's this kind of like fun time. And then you fight again, and then you're back together again. and then you learn more from each other the more you fight and then come back together, and it's that kind of harmony between the two personalities that makes people work. And with painting, it's the same thing. You're gonna go through phases where you love painting. Everything is going really awesome. You're striving for the best. You're aiming for the best. You want to be the next Rembrandt. You want to be the next Velasquez, the next Nelson Shanks. And then you have a hard time. You make a painting you're not that proud of, and then darn it, I don't want to paint anymore. I'm frustrated with painting. So you don't paint for like a week, 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden you see something. You see something off the corner of your eye, and then I want to paint again. And then you return to painting, and then you learn from it. And then again, you're painting, and everything is sunshine and daisies. And then you go through, it's a cyclical thing. You go through cycles of motivation and letdown and all these things. But you always return to it because it is part of you. And I can attest to it. I've been painting for nearly half my life now. I'm 31 and I've got 14 years experience. So I've been painting for a long time. I'm glad you like the analogy, Rob CP. So you're supposed to be in the honeymoon period with your art, but just frustrated all the time. And 2 years is just kind of like it's just kind of an approximation. The honeymoon could be like 2 years or 2 weeks. I mean, it could be like you enjoyed painting on a Monday, and then on a Thursday, all of a sudden something upset you. So so yeah. Um, SG, the back and forth is very dangerous. Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not saying it should be like on December you're doing really well, and like January you're upset, and then February you're good, and then March you're upset. Like it's not necessarily like that. It could be, it varies. There's time gaps. So SG, yeah, you were in that place. And don't feel bad, everyone. I mean, it is, that's the way it is. I think that has a lot to do with everything in life, especially with, say, like a lot of YouTubers in particular, like their first year, their second year. I noticed like a lot of YouTubers are like, subscribe to my channel if you that blah blah blah, or they're like, hey guys, welcome to another fun episode. Don't forget to smash that like button, everyone. Things like that, like, and then you start to notice them over the years, and then they're a little bit more like mellowed down, if you know what I mean. And I think I've definitely gone through that myself. I've been on YouTube for a long time. I've had my ups and downs. Probably more downs than ups, I will say, but I'm still here. I'm still kicking, and I've slowly found what works for me, and I think this is a good mix. This is something that works for me, and I'm able to do it, and it's more fun. And hopefully you notice that it's more fun for me. So yeah, it's with anything really. So as you see on the palette there, there is the, oh, before I get to the palette, we're talking about micro expressions. So you see there is kind of like this frustrated kind of almost like I'm squinting kind of micro expression that I'm painting there. But now that we've got 14 minutes, it's still enough time. I want to ask everyone a very important question. So what would you like me to talk about next time? So what would you like me to talk about next time? And I can't believe it's already been an hour and 11 minutes. So there you see me mixing a little bit of phthalo turquoise mixed with something red there, and that's for the highlight on the eyebrow. So color relationships is something I didn't really talk about with this one because it is, it is a painting from life, and there should be a lot of color. But I will admit to you that the lighting in this is LED light. It is in the room is not very. There's not a lot of color in this room, as you can tell. So there's not that much color going on here. So but what you can see is on the palette a very organized. transition from light to dark. The left, as you saw there, is like a bright blue. And that's my mole stick, which is actually a selfie stick. So if anyone wants to know how to make a very cheap mole stick, get a selfie stick, one of those cheap telescoping sticks, rip off the top, put a piece of cloth on it, tape it, and there you go. There's a selfie stick. Let's see. Theo, anything I'd like? Okay. Rob CP, let's see. Is art expression a good subject for next time? I mean, sure. Anything you want me to talk about art related next time, we can do that. COD went by super fast. You've only toned the canvas. Oh, don't worry about it. I typically do paint deliberately a little bit faster on camera because I know that the time that it takes me to make this painting is also going to reflect on the time that the video is going to be. Of course, I can fast forward it, but I'm trying not to fast forward any of these. Excuse me. Let's see. Nilu color relationship. That's something we can do. Rob CP, or how to simplify complicated subjects. Well, that's something we can do. I will say, I don't know anything any more complicated than a face. Human face is complicated in its subtlety. It's complicated for the psychology of it. Um, but yeah, I get what you mean. Rob CP, don't understand how people can paint lace. Lace? What, like shoelaces? I gotta look that one up. Oh, that's what you mean by lace. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You mean like on a bluegill or something like that. Yeah, I see what you mean. That's a lot of attention to detail. That's more a pattern working. Yeah, that's more pattern. Get your shapes down, get the big shapes down, and then all it is just pattern. You're just filling in patterns. It's an illusion, really, lace. It's more about big shapes and then pattern. That's what it is. Yeah, yeah, I just looked it up. It's a time consuming thing, but perhaps we can find let's see, a reference that has lace. Chrysalida would like to talk about fair skin. You struggle with very light skin and no eyebrows. Okay, okay. That actually fits along with the color relationship one. And if I can find a reference that has lace and fair skin, then I can do the color relationship. So there we go. COD, let's see. How I don't muddy the colors. So remember, it's all about color relationships. So, it's all about say the shadow, even though it's kind of like a brownish, it has a color to it. It leans towards the green, I would say. It leans towards the green rather than the pink. If it was pink, if the shadow was pinkish and the light is pinkish, orangey, it wouldn't work in relation to one another. So TOD, you like when I'm painting the micro expressions? Oh, good, good. And the micro expressions, they just kind of happen over time because people have different expressions on their mind over time, and you can tell I'm kind of curious. I'm more inquisitive now than I was in the beginning. I'm more concerned, but hopeful in a certain way. In some way, I'm more hopeful. So Jonas, let's see. So pale skin tones, you want something you want to be better on. Okay. Hey Rob CP. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that comment. That seems like magic. Now we're putting in these little glimpses for the glasses. And glasses are more simple than one may think. They are light and shadow, maybe a mid-tone or two, but mainly just light and dark shapes. So I guess that's gonna be a topic. It's gonna be hard to word it correctly, but color relationships with fair skin. It's kind of hard to. So that fits actually with what I'm trying to do. So thanks, Jonas. I'm glad you like the painting. So what I'm trying to do is incorporate more variety into the world of portrait painting. My problem with the world of portrait painting is there's not really so much of a variety of different cultures, ethnicities, different skin colors, and things like that. So I definitely want to change that in this video format. So this time we painted someone of Peruvian, um, let's say, uh, biology biological background. I was not born in Peru. I was not raised in Peru. I like Peruvian food, but the only thing that connects me in Peru is the fact that both my parents were Peruvian. But I only really ever spoke Spanish with my grandparents, so I really I I'm probably one of the least Peruvian descent people that you know of. So I'm trying to have every type of culture, every type of ethnicity uh, incorporated in the world of portrait painting. So that's one of my goals. I like that you mentioned that fair skin. I don't know if I've done fair skin before on a video, at least in a long time. I've done it, but not in a while, I guess. SG, please talk about whether to paint from reference or start painting from what makes us happy, even if it's not realistic or practical. I go with the latter one. Paint what makes you happy, even if it's not realistic or practical. Paint what makes you happy. One of my teachers, Robin Fry, and if you've never heard of her, definitely look her up. She deserves more credit. She is very unique. She's probably one of the most unique painters that I know of. So look her up. And one of the things that she would say is that she could tell whether the artist enjoyed what they were painting. She could tell when the artist was enjoying painting uh, or when it was kind of a drag. She could notice that with people. So that's a very important thing. Paint what you like. Don't paint something that you feel like you don't necessarily want to, unless it's like a barg or like a master copy or like there's excuses, right? Like academic painting sometimes it's not going to be what you like, but it's kind of like taking your vitamins, eating your vegetables. It's just something that you kind of have to do, and that's different. So Rob CP, you think uh, not so fun people should paint people of different skin tones, and they will be surprised just how close we all are. Yeah, we are all very close. I mean, like the Zorn palette can get pretty much almost anything. Crisalita Tomasi, Lobo Sotelo. Yeah, I do like Lobo Sotelo. That's a good one right there. Um, and Ahide Gaina, I like that one too. That's funny. Uh, Bean Pot. Any tricks or tips for painting with paintings with multiple people in it? And yeah, yeah. You want to know the secret to paintings with multiple people is composition. Forget the fact that there's multiple people. Once you have a lot of things in your painting, you have to focus on composition, which is a much more complicated thing. And composition requires you to feel out the patterns in your canvas. So Beanpot, do sketches first, thumbnail sketches. Do like 15 of them first, then do oil sketches, just little quick little sketches, and then and do that before you start your painting. But know that the painting will change over time, but at least those sketches will give you a framework. That's what's the difficult thing there. So there you see these are little fine adjustments now. So this is an hour 21. We've got 3 minutes left. So now we're starting to add these little tiny adjustments now with the sable brushes. And I had to be very, very picky of which shapes would go where, because at this point I could easily spend 30 minutes on an eye and you wouldn't notice that big of a difference. I could spend 30 minutes on the nose and you wouldn't notice that big of a difference. So, for me, a challenge for me is to find the most practical, the most, as John DeMartin say, the most emphatic. I'm just gonna call them things on the face because I don't have a cool word like he would. Find the most important things that will pop out and will give form, and just leave it at that. Once you find the little highlight on the nose, contrasting the accent and the half tone on the wing of the nose, leave it. Find it, place it down, leave it there, because you can spend a very long time and not a lot of things can happen. And if you're trying to make a super finished painting, then you're going to have to do that extra little bit of work. But for more lively paintings, for paintings that have a little bit more charisma to them, more character, do what I said, and I think that you'll enjoy it even more. Rob CP, when you do a master copy, do you have a goal to learn something like how the artist dealt with proportion or values? When I do a master study, it's more along the lines of I'm gonna go into this with the mindset of I don't know what I'm gonna learn from it yet, but I know I'm gonna learn something from it. So I'm open-minded. So I go into it open-minded, not so much I'm gonna start this Rembrandt because I want to get better at values. I usually tell myself I'm gonna start this Rembrandt because I know I'm gonna get something from it, and I may not know what it is. And sometimes that's the way it is. Sometimes you learn something when you're doing a master study, and it doesn't, you don't know that you've learned it yet until time goes by, and then, oh, like I can see now, like there's a lot of influence that I got from Rembrandt, like noses in particular, like the easiness of that nose, the kind of like the little brush stroke on the corner of the eye and the bottom of the lip. I've seen that on Rembrandts before. So now there it is. So the camera has been turned so you can see it with less distortion. So that is the conclusion, but wait, there's more. Now we're going to do a summary of what just happened. And it is an hour and 24 minutes. I didn't sign it on camera because I knew that this was a long video, so I didn't sign it. But it is signed in the photograph. No worries, Rob CP. All right, so now we're going to do a little summary of this. So Chrysalida, let's see. Oh, good. I'm glad you liked the tutorial and discussion. Oh, thank you, thank you. I wish you much success in 2023 as well. So, everyone, you ready for a summary? Let's do it. In the beginning, there was a blank canvas. By blank, I mean it had a neutral gray tone that was um, lead white primer by Williamsburg, an oil primer, and a little bit of Alkyd black. Any Alkyd brand really would do the same thing. So it's a toned surface, completely dry. In the beginning, I didn't know what my pose was going to be, but I knew that that background was going to be something I wanted to get out the way first. So I did. And then I placed my eye because I just felt like placing it there. This was just a matter of feel. Then we started to fill in the darks. So now we have the darks in there. Oh, thank you, Theo. Thank you, Nilu. So then we got the darks in place there. So the darks were pretty much kind of suggested. And at this point here, I don't have the tilt yet. I somehow eventually impose a tilt later on. And then we started to add some planes into the mix. With these planes, I started to push and pull these large shapes into position. So there we have large shapes pushed into position. Now we start to subdivide the shapes a little bit more. Not that much, but a little bit more. And we went in with the nose and the mouth before going in with the eyes. A little bit different. And I think I did it this way because I started to paint in a tilt. So the nose, everyone, a nose is the best way to figure out the position of your model's head. So the nose tells you the tip, turn, and tilt of the model. So now you see, this was the point where I have my head turned and it's tipped and it's tilted now, which is kind of difficult to do, but somehow I chose to do it, and I don't know why I did, but I just kind of did. And now we're subdividing the shapes even smaller and even smaller, more refinement. And now we're at a point where we're going to start to not add so much, but refine it. You see, my forehead is completely wrong. It's like kind of swollen. It's not at all in the correct position yet. And I do have a large forehead, but it's not that large. And there I noticed it and I did it. I made the adjustment. So now you see the silhouette is starting to get a little bit more refinement. So you can put in big planes and you can work with them by working with masses. If you work with masses rather than lines, you will be more specific. So there we have smaller shapes, more refinement, more refinement. And this was the point where I decided compositionally, yeah, I'm gonna put this light over here, and I will admit to you that that light actually wasn't there. So my face was actually more completely in shadow, and I imposed a little bit of light actually by turning my head more and seeing what it looked like, and then putting it in there. So that's another thing that you can't get from a reference that you can only do when you're painting from life. So then I was like, okay, this was the part where I was like, yeah, I put in some light, but I want more. So then I started to add more. And then there's the micro expressions. Now that we have the features in there, we start to put in these little micro expressions that were more or less kind of involuntary. And micro expressions, a little bit of detail, a little bit of refinement, and there it is. Now, this is where it starts to take form. This is where, from a distance, now we have a human face. This is where it starts to be those small things that I had to be very picky of because I could have spent an hour on each feature and you wouldn't notice much of a difference. And there it is. There is the finished painting for you. So this was all about likeness this time. So next time we are going to focus on color relationships and fair skin, how to paint lighter color skin tones. Like I said, I'm on a mission to fix something with portrait painting that I noticed throughout the centuries is I want to add more variety in the world of portrait painting. So that is what we will do next time. And thank you, Lady Death, for watching. So once again, remember everyone, here is my schedule in case you are interested in taking my online classes. Uh, Everything in black there is $10 a month stuff that you can get. Um, and everything in blue is for the Zoom tiers. There's also a live stream tier as well that watches each lesson live. But for the $10 a month, you get access to all of the pre-recorded videos. All of the videos are composed of projects that are organized in playlists. And of course, now you'll be able to hang out with me on Zoom every other week. So if you want to hang out with me on Zoom tomorrow and you're watching this live, check out the online classes. Again, it's just the $10 a month online classes, and you can hang out with me on Zoom tomorrow and then every other week, Wednesday morning. On red there, you see this for everyone else. YouTube Public Live is actually 10:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesdays. So there is my schedule for you. Let's see, SG, do you think people should find it difficult to paint realism? Uh, let's see, they shift to abstract, suggestive, stylized. I mean, yeah, that's something that Nelson Shanks would say is that stylization is an excuse for a lack of skill, but not always the case. I mean, a lot of really accomplished realist painters do stylize after many, many years because they find that that's something that they want to do. So sometimes it's the case, but not always. So that's about it for this week. I'm running a little close on time. I've got 3 minutes till I've got to be with the Zoom tiers. So once again, I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Remember, the schedule for the YouTube is now going to be every Tuesday, 10:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and you get to choose the emphasis on what I will talk about through each of these portrait painting tutorials. So next time we will focus on color relationships and painting fair skin skin colors. So remember, the palette colors are listed in the description box of the video. So is the link to my online classes on my Patreon. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. I wish you the very best in all of your artwork, and I will see you on the next one.